Is DNA from aborted babies in the measles vaccine? And how do we know the vaccine doesn't cause autism? Welcome to Behind the Investigation with Atlanta News First Investigates. I'm Andy Perotti. Those are a few questions we've seen on social media lately following this year's measles outbreak in the United States, the worst in more than 3 decades. To get clear answers, we reached out to 2 public health experts, Dr. Jody Guest, an Emory University professor and senior vice chair of the Department of Epidemiology at the Rollins School of Public Health, and Dr. Robert Benarchik, an associate professor of global health at Emory University. Combined, they've spent decades researching preventable diseases, vaccines, and vaccine hesitancy. We questioned them about some of the top measles vaccine concerns. Is there any evidence that the MMR vaccine has caused autism?
No.
How do we know that?
We know that from many, many studies of very high scientific rigor that have consistently shown that there is no correlation between having an MMR vaccine and causative autism.
Any idea why we keep hearing about the link or the rumor?
Yeah, it's very clear. There was a study in the 1990s that has been disproven, and in fact, the person who led that study has actually lost their medical license based on it. It was faulty data that came to a conclusion that said that there was a link, but we've disproven that over and over and over again since then.
Can the MMR vaccine negatively impact your immune system?
No, but measles virus can. So measles infections can impact your immune system, but the vaccine itself, it actually strengthens your immune system. It makes it so that you can fight off measles infection better, and that can keep you healthy both from the standpoint of just regular measles infection and the issues with that, but measles can also cause something called immune amnesia, where it can actually wipe out part of your pre-existing immunity to other diseases that you have as part of that measles virus infection.
How does that work?
So measles can get into some of our immune cells, it can replicate in those immune cells, and it can clear some of them out. So every time you get a vaccine, the antibodies that you produce, that's what's circulating in your system on a regular basis, and that's what's there to gobble up the viruses that it might encounter. But there's also a part of our immune system called a memory cell, and that's kind of an encyclopedia of everything you've ever been exposed to, so that there's a really quick response. When you're then potentially exposed to a virus later on, it can flip through that encyclopedia really, really quickly, say, this is the antibody that we need, and then it can start producing that. Some of those cells can get killed off by measles virus during a measles infection. So it can actually lead to increases in other infectious diseases for potentially up to a few months after somebody recovers from measles.
Does the MMR vaccine have DNA from aborted babies?
No, it doesn't. No, there's no DNA in there from abortions. Through the process early on, there's cells that are used in some of the processing early on in the vaccine manufacture process that do have relationships to cells from abortion, but none of that is maintained in the vaccine. All of that is fully cleared out. There's no remnants of those cells in there at all.
Why would someone believe that? Any idea?
There's no human DNA inside of a vaccine. Most of our vaccines actually do have to grow in cells. And so it is true that cells are important to be able to grow vaccines, and then they are washed of them. And so at the time that you get a vaccine, there's no human product inside of a vaccine.
How long does the measles vaccine last?
So what we've seen with measles vaccine is that it looks like it lasts for a lifetime. We've seen individuals that have gotten vaccinated from the earliest days of the vaccine being available in the 1960s, 1970s, still showing levels of protection today. And even in cases where maybe there's not measurable antibodies still, there's still those memory cells that I mentioned. And those memory cells can then be activated to produce more antibodies against measles virus if you're exposed to it later on. So there is that reinforcement that can come over time, even if what you see in terms of antibodies circulating in your body are starting to drop down to lower levels.
Does the MMR vaccine have mercury in it?
No, so the MMR vaccine has never contained mercury or thimerosal, which is a mercury-containing preservative that's used in a variety of different settings. Because the MMR vaccine is what we call a live attenuated vaccine, so we take the viruses, we modify them so they can't cause illness, but they can still get into our system, trigger our immune system. With that, we can't use those types of preservatives in there. So MMR vaccine has never had thimerosal in it. That was previously used in some other vaccines, but after a lot of public awareness around the presence of thimerosal, that was removed from just about all vaccines.
Perspectives from two leading public health experts about the measles vaccine. To understand what Georgia and the United States can learn about the impact of declining vaccination rates from an island nation 6,000 miles away, watch Tragedy in Paradise on AtlantaNewsFirst.com. Thanks for watching Behind the Investigation with Atlanta News First Investigates.